All right, let's move on to chapter 5, lesson 5 on the Pythagorean Theorem. Now, if you want to sound extra smart when you go home tonight, you say, Mom, Dad, guess what? We learned about the Pythagorean Theorem today at school. It was, and you can just rattle it off to them, and I guarantee you they're going to be like, oh, my little baby is so smart. Honey, we need to start saving more because little Dalton, he's going to be going to Harvard. Little Maddie, she's going to be going to Harvard. She's already talking about Pythagorean Theorem. Now, I don't know. Your mom may not sound like that. She may. I don't know. And if she does, it's probably kind of scary. So, anyway, enough for the comic relief on that. Let's get serious. Pythagorean Theorem describes the relationship between the lengths of the legs and the hypotenuse for any right triangle. So, that is noteworthy in and of itself. Only applies to right triangles. And you know it's a right triangle if it has that little box in the corner. Okay? Talks about the legs. The legs are actually the sides that touch the right angle. Those are the legs. The hypotenuse, big ugly word for the side that is opposite them. Hypotenuse is always the longest side. Okay? So, Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So if I have one that looks like this side is 3, this side is 4, this side is 5. What it's saying is that this side squared, so 3 squared plus 4 squared, the legs squared, add them together, you will get the hypotenuse squared. 3 squared is 9, plus 4 squared is 16. 9 plus 16 is 25, and that is what 5 squared is. So that works for any right triangle. All right, example 1. Write an equation you could use to find the length of the missing side in each of the right triangles, then find the missing length, round to the nearest tenth if necessary. That means if they do not come out nice and even, they just want you to round it to the nearest tenth, which is 1 decimal place. Okay? So looking at example 1, we know that the sides touching the right angle are the legs. That would be these two. You happen to have both of those. So 9 squared plus 12 squared equals the hypotenuse squared. In this case, it's C. So 9 squared, 81. 12 squared, 144. You add those together, you get 225 equals C squared. Now, in general, like if this were, let's say this were 3x equals something, let's say like 15, wouldn't you divide both sides by 3 because you have to do the opposite of this? Same thing with this. What's the opposite of a square? The square root. So how do you take C squared and get it down to just be C? You take the square root of C squared and the square root of 225. So what times itself is C squared? Well, it's just C. What squared is 225? 15 or negative 15. Remember, anytime you do that, you've got positives and negatives. But when you're talking about the length of a side, you can't have a negative length. So my answer is just 15. So you could check that by saying the length of the two legs squared equals my hypotenuse squared. So 144 plus 81 should equal 225, and it does. Therefore, you know your answer is correct. So, number 2. This time, what if they give you the hypotenuse and you have to find one of the legs? It's the same thing, okay? It's still a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So as far as your legs, 8 squared. You do not know this one. That's why they have b squared. A squared plus b squared equals c is 24 squared. So 8 squared, 64. B squared, we don't know yet. 24 squared, 576. Now, in this equation, would you not just subtract 64 from both sides, which is what they've done right here, leaving you with b squared equals 512. So the opposite of square, take the square root. Now, if you do this on a calculator, the square root does not come out nice and even. They say to round it to the nearest tenth, which will be 22.6. Again, we ignore the negative part of this because we cannot have a negative decimal. All right? Okay. Going on here to A, B, and C, I want you to pause them, and then we'll come back and I'll tell you what the answers are for those. Okay, So for A, you are looking for the hypotenuse. You are looking for c squared, and that comes out to be 30 yards. 30 yards. Always try and put the label on it when you can. For B, you are actually looking for B, and that comes out not nice and even, 7.4 miles. And again, if you aren't trying these, you're really only hurting yourself. C, you are actually looking for, again, one of the legs. You're looking for A, and it comes out as a decimal as well, 10.5. Remember, round to the nearest tenth, which is 1 decimal place, 10.5 centimeters. Okay, so with that, hopefully you're good with that. You just got to plug into that theorem. You should have written down a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And if not, it's at least in the room, but I want you to get that and know it. Okay, the converse of the Pythagorean theorem. So this is not talking about the Chuck Taylors. This is talking about a converse of something. If you reverse it, then you have formed its converse. So in other words, if a squared plus b squared equals c squared, then it's a right triangle. So the other way around. If it's a right triangle, then a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Basically saying the same thing, but remember whenever we talked about proofs a couple lessons ago, it's just saying if you have one, then it's the other. Well, what if you have the first one? Well, then it's now the second one. So don't let that confuse you. It's still the same. Let's talk about an example. Example 3. The measures of 3 sides of a triangle are 5 inches, 12 inches, and 13 inches. Determine whether the triangle is a right triangle. So your job, does it fit Pythagorean theorem? Now, as far as the legs, it does not matter which one of them are 5 and 12. But remember I told you the hypotenuse was the biggest one. The hypotenuse is c squared. The biggest one will always be c. The other two, it doesn't matter which one it is. So take 5 squared plus 12 squared. See if that equals 13 squared. If it does, then that is a right triangle. If it does not, then it's not. So 5 squared is 25, 12 squared 144, 13 squared 169. Is 25 plus 144 169? Yes. So therefore that is a right triangle. So I want you to pause and try got it, D and E. Okay, back with me. Let's talk about 36 squared plus 48 squared. Does that equal 60 squared? And the answer to that is yes. That is a right triangle. So for E, remember it's not just the first 2 that are the legs. It's the smaller 2 are the legs. The bigger one is the hypotenuse. This one is C. It's always the biggest one is C. So 4 squared plus 5 squared. 4 squared plus 5 squared, so 16 plus 25. Is that the same thing as 7 squared, which is 49? No. So that answer is no. So again, just because it talks about the converse of the Pythagorean theorem and you think it's all technical and crazy, it's really not. It's just saying, does it fit the criteria? Does it make it true when you use the Pythagorean theorem? So, and that's it. So Pythagorean theorem, not that bad, right? Again, go home at the dinner table tonight. Talk about not only the Pythagorean theorem, but its converse. See what kind of reactions they get. Right? Good luck to you.